Hey, it is I, Grady at Twin Creek Audio, back in the studio today, or this evening, or tonight, as it were. Today I've got another mixing demonstration with the Soundcraft Sapphyre recording console. I'm going to use a track from the Completists 2016 album Songs for Cats. This is not one of the cat-themed songs from the album. In fact, it's a really cool song. I don't really even know how to describe it. But you definitely need to hear the end of the song because it changes completely from what the rest of the song is. It's really interesting. In one section, it kind of sounds like it's going to fall apart before it has that completely kind of twist ending. It's just an awesome song. My personal favorite song from the Songs for Cats album by the Completists. I'm going to do something different with this video today. I'm going to go ahead and do the mix part of this first. And then afterwards, I'll explain everything that I did, all the settings and what went into this mix and why I did the things I did. This is a complicated mix because the ending is so much different from the rest of the song. In fact, on the original version of this mix, I split the project into two and mixed the end section separately. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to try and mix the whole thing together as a single piece through the Soundcraft Sapphyre and see what we get. So let's go ahead and do the mix, and if you're interested, stick around after the mix and I'll give the entire rundown of the gear settings and all of the details on this mix. Well, somewhat contrary to what I just said, I am going to show you what's on each of these channels so that at least you have an idea of what you're looking at while I'm doing the mix. Typically of what I do on these videos is kick and snare, stereo toms, stereo overheads, drum room mic, bass guitar. This is the main acoustic guitar, and that's in stereo. It's actually 3 different microphones on that, but it's a stereo pair here. This track is the guitar you're hearing now. This next channel is a guitar that comes in towards the end. You can hear that. And we have some tremolo guitars on this stereo pair, or this pair of channels rather. That plays most of the way through the main part of the song. These 3 channels are the electric guitars for the really cool kind of twist ending of the song. This being the main electric guitar that starts that section. This is the electric guitar that's kind of a harmonized part that harmonizes with this next channel, which is the lead guitar, the guitar solo at the end. This stereo pair here is a mellotron type sound, and then the lead vocal and the background vocal. And then we've got the return from the Yamaha Rev 500, and then I have these 2 faders here are actually the subgroup faders for the parallel compression, so you'll see me doing that during the mix. And again, I'll explain all of this in more detail after the mix. For those that want to watch the whole video, if you're interested in seeing how I got all of these sounds.
If I wasn't in love with you, it could all just fade away. If I didn't know that this was true, everything I have dissolved into the gray. It will all be fine in this heart of mine. Impossible to find, impossible to hide. Will my love If I wasn't in love with you, it could all just fade away. If I didn't know that this was true, everything I had dissolved into the gray. And it will all be fine in this heart of mine. Impossible to find, impossible to hide. Will my love true?
That was really fun. It was a pretty cool sounding mix in my opinion. Now I did exaggerate the parallel compression a little bit on the end section of the song so you could really hear what that's doing, and you hopefully saw the two channel faders that I wrote up during that ending section of the song for that parallel compression. And as promised, I'm going to show you how I did all of that now, and I am going to start with how I did parallel compression on the Soundcraft Sapphyre with the LA Audio 4x4, and then I'll show you the other outboard gear settings and the EQ settings on the console that I used to achieve this mix. So first things first, one of the biggest things that you may have noticed on this mix is the faders over to the right of the console that I was pushing up for the end section. What I was doing was parallel compression with the Soundcraft Sapphyre. I've shown how to do this on the Soundtrax Topaz, which is a much simpler console for that type of thing, but here's how I did it on the Sapphyre. These are our first 4 channels. These are what I sent to the parallel compression submix. It's kick, snare, and a pair of stereo toms. In order to do that, in order to get those signals from here to the bus for the parallel compression, I came up here to the channel faders, and I want to use these as like a send from each of these main channels down here with our instruments, our kick, snare, and toms. So I did that by pressing the XFX button on these channels. That makes it where these channel faders take their signal from down here on the big monitor faders, and then I can route them to the buses, bus 1 and 2 in this case here, and I have them panned just like they were down here so that my toms panning stays in place. So let me move over to the other side of the console and show you how you use a bus on this console. So where are the subgroups on the Soundcraft Sapphyre? You don't see any, do you? There's no subgroups. Those are stereo channels there. There's 6 of those, but there's there's no subgroups. Where are the subgroups? Well, any of the channels on the Sapphyre can be turned into a subgroup by pressing the sub switch at the top of each channel. They are even marked here. This is channel 25/bus 1, channel 26/bus 2. So by pressing these two sub buttons, I have now turned channel 25 and 26 into subgroup 1 and 2. So I've sent my drums using the XFX button over on their strips over to bus 1 and 2. So now here is bus 1 and 2. Unless I wanted to flip it to the main faders down here, which I didn't do, and in that case you can press these buttons to send it down to the big faders, but the small faders for this compression submix is fine with me. So they're panned here and assigned to mix. And that's how you do parallel compression with a subgroup on the Soundcraft Sapphyre. I'm using a lot of the fantastic, in my opinion, the Sapphire's EQ is really great. And I'm using that on the drums here. You can see I have some 80 hertz added to the kick drum along with some attack that's around 3K. The snare drum, I'm boosting a little bit of 7K and also some low mids. It's around 240, 220, 240. On the toms, I'm not doing anything except adding a little bit of 80 hertz. The rest of these EQs are flat. On the overheads, I'm boosting a little bit of 7K and that's it. On the room mic, I also have no EQ. Bass guitar does have some EQ. I'm boosting a little bit of 80 hertz here, and then I'm removing some at about 350, 400. This is the main acoustic guitar track here on this pair of faders. So let's look at the EQ I have on that main acoustic guitar, which is really just beautiful sounding. So I've got a little bit of 12K being added to the right side, which is actually a close mic. This left side is a little bit, I think it's an over-the-shoulder mic because it's a roomier sound. So I'm boosting a little bit that's like kind of, this looks like it's about 700 to 1K, and then removing a little bit of low end here. This one's just the boost at 12K and a little bit of boost at looks like 4K. And that's it on those. These are the two kind of electric guitar tracks that are effects and things that run through the slower section of the song. And you can see I really like this 12K shelf on the Sapphyre EQ because I'm using that again. Also using a little bit of high mid frequency around 3 kilohertz to boost that. And I'm removing a little low mids from this one on the left side, but not on the right side. These three channels are the electric guitars for the really cool kind of twist ending of the song. This being the main electric guitar that starts that section. Let's go up and look at the EQ on that because it's a little different than the other ones. I'm actually taking out some lows and some highs with the shelving EQ, and then I'm boosting. It looks like I'm boosting around, what is that? Let's see, about 800. It's got a little bit of a boost at 800, and then I'm removing some low mids that's closer to like 200. The harmony guitar doesn't have any EQ on it. This stereo pair here is the Mellotron, and it also does not have any EQ on it. I didn't have to EQ that all through the Sapphyre, so there's no EQ here. And the two vocal tracks. Let's see, what have we got on the vocal tracks for EQ? Right here we are. Boosting a little low mids on the background vocal. The lead vocal's not EQ'd. That one is though. Just with a little low mids boosted on that. That's it on the background vocal. I am using a little bit of reverb here, not on everything, but on the acoustics and the vocals and the lead guitar at least. It does have a short plate setting. This is the Rev 500 from Yamaha. I've used this in a lot of videos. We have a 17 millisecond pre-delay and a 1 second reverb time, which that's pretty much what the preset is, short plate preset on the Yamaha Rev 500. Bass guitar, I'm using the Urei LA-10 compressor. I've used this in several of these mixing videos already. The Urei LA-10 works fantastic on bass guitar, and these are the settings that I have on it today. I do have the detector circuit more towards the peak side. Attack straight up and down, release is a little bit long, and the ratio is right between 2 to 1 and 3 to 1, so 2.5 to 1, let's call that. The snare drum is again going through the Symetrix 501 compressor, which I really like on snare. Today, I have it set in the manual mode, and the attack is just to the left of 1.5. Release is set just below 60, and the ratio is 2.2 to 1. I used a fairly aggressive setting for the parallel compression on the drums on this mix. You can see the ratio on the LA Audio 4x4 is set at 10. And I have a fast attack, or relatively fast attack, 1 millisecond attack, and it's almost a 20 millisecond release, but it's a little slower than that. I'm gonna guess that's about 40 milliseconds. And then I'm pushing the input and the output, it's really loud back on the console actually. It sounds really good. And I am using that side chain so that the compressor is the detector circuit's really only triggering on everything between 50 and 1 kilohertz, nothing higher than 1 kilohertz and nothing lower than 50. And typically what I do is just use my ears. I did kind of want this compressor to trigger on the low end, so I just set it at 50 so that it's not triggering on the super sub lows, but everything above 50 and below 1K is triggering the detector circuit on the LA Audio 4x4 for the parallel compression sound that I got on the drums for this mix. So in addition to the parallel compression and the fader moves and different things that I did during the mix, a lot of this mix is achieved just by the way the tracks were laid out. Most of the elements of this mix were instruments that were performed by Heath Rogers. I performed the drum track and the guitar solo at the end of the song, but Heath is responsible for all the other parts and how those are arranged and how they're layered together. That's a big part of any mix, and I bet a lot of people don't think about that because they're too busy thinking about the technical aspects and the audio of the mix, but arrangement is a huge part of that. And so this song was relatively easy to mix, even though it had a very different ending from the rest of the song, because the arrangement was set up correctly in the first place, and there was dynamics. There were proper dynamics in the performance of most of the tracks too. So hopefully I didn't miss anything in the description of all of the elements that went into this mix and the equipment, the EQ settings on the console, all of that. If you do feel like I missed something and you have a question, feel free to leave a comment on this video, and I'll try to answer it in the comments or in a future video. Also, make sure to check out the original version and original mix of this song from the Completists Songs for Cats album. I'll put a link in the video description to that original version of the song, as well as all the other links in the video description that are to projects that I've been a part of, played on, produced, that kind of thing. All of those links do go to help support this channel. Make sure that you also like the video and subscribe to the Twin Creek Audio YouTube channel if you haven't already, because that definitely helps support the channel as well. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, night, evening, weekend, weekday, hour, minute, second, nanosecond, whatever it is you're having. Have a good one, and thanks so much for watching.
If I wasn't in love with